there guys, this is Malorian, and this will be another Malorian Spotlight video, and this time it's going to be on William Page. Now, what we do here is we look at another battle reporter. They send me one of their battle reports, and I am going to play it here, and then after I'm going to talk about what I think about their list, the way they deployed, and the way they played the game. So without further ado, he's going to be playing some Dark Elves up against some Dwarves, and let's see what happens.
Aloha, it's Creative Name to Stand Out again with another battle report. This time I'm bringing it to you through a brand new microphone. Always looking to increase the quality of these battle reports. This is just a step towards increasing the sound quality. I hope you enjoy it, but let's get into the battle report. It's 2,000 points, Dwarves versus Dark Elves. This is what deployment looks like. Let's get a closer look. Alright, so starting on the left flank, we have my Doomfire Warlocks and the Dark Riders. They were deployed further to the left of that forest. I was trying to draw some of his units off to the left side, his right, create a mismatch in deployment, and this is after Vanguard. Over here on the center, we have the Executioners and the BSB with the Supreme Sorceress in the back. And beside that, I have 20 Dark Shards. I don't have a terribly great track record with these Dark Shards. Usually bring them in smaller groupings of 10. This time I'm going to bring 20 because hopefully 40 shots will kill something. Alright, and then finally on the far right flank, going around a hill will be 30 witches. And there's a couple proxies in there because I forgot to bring some models. So going to the Dwarves, we have his gyrocopter with the steam gun and Vanguard upgrade. Then he has 19 Slayers with no command at all. Then he has 23 Longbeards, and there's 2 characters in there. And then finally he has 2 organ guns side by side making up his center. Not finally, but also on the hill he has 20 Quarrelers, a cannon, and 10 Thunderers. And then on the far right flank he has a unit of Dwarf Warriors with shields. I don't remember if it has a command, I think it does. And then finally he won the role to get the scouts deployed first, and he deployed his Rangers, as you can see. So then I deploy my scouts. We start with these shades here, and inside that unit will be an assassin. And then finally on the far right flank, he will see 5 more shades. Alright, and then the dwarves roll off for Ancestral Grudge, and they get Rancorous Resolve, which means his characters will have hatred against my Dark Elves. So a little bit of a boost there, but at least it wasn't army-wide hatred. We roll to see who gets to go first, and lucky me, I get first turn, and here we go. Alright, so here are my opening moves. Let's talk about what my game plan is going to be. So starting from the right, where you can't see the witches right now, I'll show another slide here in a second with them. They're going to swing right, try to hit these Longbeards or Slayers in the flank. Meanwhile, I'm going to bring these Dark Shards up, and I'm really going to whittle down these Slayers, if not kill them. I do have 40 shots going into them. The Executioners are going to try to go one-on-one with the Longbeards, hopefully with the witches coming on around the bend and the crossbow shots into the Slayers. That will be a real possibility. Finally, my shades are up front, ready to strike those organ guns whenever I need to. Right now, all his things are going to be at a base -2 to hit them because they're shades in the woods, skirmishers in the woods, and so he's probably going to have to concentrate a lot of shots to kill them if he wants to get rid of that threat. And he doesn't know there's an assassin in there yet. I bring in the Dark Riders as a kind of faux threat, really just there to die, hopefully pull off some of the pressure from the shades, allowing at least one to live so the assassin's still there. And then finally I'm bringing the Doomfire Warlocks in the rear, and they're really just going to stay away from the shooting until I get into the combats, and then I'll bring them up. Alright, and then on the right side we have the witches coming around the hill. They're going to start swinging left next turn, and then the shades are going to move up, hopefully kill the copter, but more likely just plink a wound or 2 off it, and then maybe the magic phase can help me finish it off. Alright, so in the magic phase I have two objectives. One is to make it difficult for him to dislodge my shades from their position, and the second is to kill off the gyrocopter. I kind of fail on the gyrocopter count, but I do get off Ice Shard Blizzard, as you can see here on the organ gun. I'm going to make it harder for him. And then we go in the shooting phase, and I shoot 40 bolts into the Slayers and only kill one. He had the banner where he gets a 5+ ward save if he's within 6 inches of it from shooting. And then finally, my other shades are able to plink off a wound on the gyrocopter. So, not the greatest start, but it's not terribly bad either. Just need to hopefully do better in the next rounds. So going into Dwarf 1. Alright, so this is the overview of the board again as we go into Dwarf 1. In the movement phase, we have his warriors move around the hill. He actually moves his other two units fairly aggressively towards the executioners, and then he moves his gyrocopter across to engage the shades. In the shooting phase, he steam guns the shades. Luckily, they don't all die. I didn't even think about the gyrocopter being a threat. The unhexed organ gun shoots at the other shades coming along the flank and kill a bunch. The Rangers take aim and kill all but 2 of the Dark Riders. The Thunders finish up the Dark Riders, and then finally the hexed organ gun and the Correlers fire into the 2 shades, and only 1 shade dies. So that worked out pretty well for me, and my assassin's still alive to run into the organ guns. Alright, so I declare a charge with that shade into the organ gun. I'll reveal the assassin in the combat phase. We move over to where the executioners are, and I declare a charge against the Longbeards. Feel very confident about this combat. Then we move over to the witches, and I move them up on top of the hill, and that's just a marker. And then finally I move my Doomfire Warlocks over here where the executioners once were before the charge, and then we hop into the magic phase. Alright, so I feel like I have an advantage. I need to press that advantage with a good magic phase, but I do get blindsided. I forget about the Dispel Scroll. In this case, the Dispel Rune. And so instead of, I should have probably threw 6 dice at Chain Lightning, but I just threw 4 and he dispelled it. I do get off Thunderbolt. That ends up killing 2 of the 3 organ gun crew members here. Kind of disappointing. Probably shouldn't even have targeted them because I had the assassin coming in. Over in the shooting phase, I have the Dark Shards take aim at the Slayers in the distance, unleash Flurry Bolts, and again only kill 1. So, too bad about that. And even more heartbreaking news, like a wave hitting a breaker, my executioners run into the stone wall that is the Longbeards, and they just don't do well at all. I end up putting all of his characters down to 1 wound, was not able to get a killing blow off. I kill 4 of his guys, and then in return, he kills, I have 8 wounds here, but I'm pretty sure he killed more after that, and he wounds my BSB. I break, he runs me down, panics the Doomfire Warlocks, so it's going to start this horrible chain reaction. And then we go over to the General, of course, and he runs into her because she's not that far behind the Executioners. And this just turned really, really, really bad. But on a brighter note, my assassin does kill off the organ gun crew. We go into Dwarf turn 2, and even though things went really bad, it was a pretty disastrous turn. I feel like I'm still in a good position. I do have the witches in striking distance, and I feel like they can take either one of those units. I just have to weather this turn. So he flies his gyrocopter over here, and he's going to flame my crossbowmen. Here's a look at the board on the right, and a look at the board on the left. And so we don't have a magic phase again, of course, and we go straight into shooting. And he kills more than half of my crossbowmen with a steam gun, and they break. We go into combat with my general, and of course she offers a challenge to try to stay alive. He denies it. I send the BSB in the back, and then she gets pummeled. We go into Dark Elf turn 3, and I'm still optimistic. I still got these witches over here. They're matched up, I feel like, pretty well, so I declare a charge. It's a long one, but they do make it, so I'm like, alright, here we go. I'm going to get back in the game. The assassin charges the other organ gun. Unfortunately, my Doomfire Warlocks don't rally, and they run off the board. And then, of course, my crossbowmen also continue to flee. Alright, with no magic and no shooting, the assassin finishes off the organ gun crew member. And in this combat, I'm finally forced to accept the fact that attacking Longbeards in the front head-on is as strategically sound as trying to knock down a brick wall with your bare fists. The brick wall is going to win every time, and you're going to be left with bloody stumps. So here, again, I learned the hard way. I slammed the witches in there. More attacks does not equal more success. I do kill a rank of Longbeards, but he basically kills a rank of my witch elves. and I barely win this combat. He's steadfast and he sticks. So things are not looking well. Alright, so here on the left flank we have his army that I've been kind of ignoring. I successfully, in quotation marks, have kept this part of the army out of the game. I did it at first through my deployment tricks, and then I continued the strategy by just getting my army killed. So this is what the army looks like on the left. We go back to the right. His slayers charge into the side of the witches. Then his gyrocopter pushes my dark shards off the board. And with no magic, we go straight into shooting, and my shade and the assassin look down at this gun line. Surviving the cross bolts was a pretty major feat by the assassin. However, it was short-lived as the thunderers took aim and unfortunately gunned my assassin down. So, not a terrible way to die, but you know. Alright, so before I forget, that last shade also ran off the board from like turn 1. We go over to this combat, and I roll pretty miraculously here. I only put 2 witches into the flank, and they rolled 6 sixes, so every wound got poisoned, so that was pretty awesome. But after combat, both units take a thrashing. Actually, I take a thrashing, I kill 1 dwarf, and that's pretty much it. I lose again, and I break, get ran down, and mercifully the game ends. Alright, and it's a dwarf victory, so that's pretty awesome for the dwarves there. It's the second time I've faced dwarves, and it's the second time I've had my butt kicked by dwarves. This time, not so much by shooting, more along the lines of combat. If I was going to pick one particular mistake, I'm sure I made a ton of mistakes. You don't get your butt kicked like this without making a ton of mistakes. The one mistake I would point out that I probably should have paid more attention to was my deployment of my witches. Probably could have used them closer to the executioners than I had them. That way they could have maybe engaged at the same time as the executioners. So next time maybe I won't swing them so far to the right. Maybe keep them so that they're going across the hill. Other than that, I'm sure I played my magic phases not to the most optimal, but you lose some, you win some. Sometimes you consistently lose some. So there you go against the dwarves. I really hope you enjoyed this. I look forward to any comments that you guys want to post regarding what I should have done differently. Thank you very much for liking, subscribing, and I appreciate all your guys' comments, and I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.
So there we go. We saw the battle. Didn't end up too well for the Dark Elves, but now I got to do my part, and I got to talk about what I think about his list, the way that he played, or the way he deployed, and then the way he played the game. Now, his list seemed to be something that really just took a little bit of everything, and I think that was the real problem I had with it. Starting off, I mean, the characters are fine the way they're set up, except I don't really like the assassin. Assassins, I like to have them built for a specific tool, and in this one it seemed like he was just kind of thrown in there, and I mean, it was almost close where his unit was wiped out before he showed up, but in this case here, I'd rather put the points somewhere else. Otherwise, I mean, I like the rest of the stuff, like the shooting he had in there, but then there's the 2 combat units. There's the executioners, and there's the Witch Elves. Now, they're both very, very great units to have. However, they seem to be in this kind of awkward middle spot where normally for these combat units, you either want to go big and make them, say, 40 strong, and then that way you can go horde formation, you can take some losses, and you're still going to get all your attacks. Or you want to go maybe the same number, but in bust formation. And in that one there, you can really attack, and try and whittle them down while being steadfast. Or the other way is you go fairly small, and then they're really just a support unit. Both these units, both the Witch Elves and the Executioners, were about 30, and that forced them to kind of try and find some middle ground, whereas I think it would have been a lot better if he would have taken points maybe from the Assassin for sure, or maybe some Dark Riders or something, just to flesh those out so they can say, all right, this is a Malorian horde, we're going for it, we're going to kick your butt. Now, when it came to the actual deployment, I really like how he started, where he said, I started with these guys over here, and then I started trying to draw them out. And really, it seemed like that really worked against the dwarves. Normally for dwarves, they're just going to castle. And so this strategy won't actually work, because if you start in one corner, they'll be like, well, okay, that means I'm just going to castle in the other corner. But really, it seemed like he tried to counter deploy and then followed along. So this actually opened up some interesting strategies. At the same time, just to finish the way that that William Page deployed the army, the Witch Elves did seem like they were too far out. There's only the 2 combat blocks, and by having them not support each other, that meant that you can't do some deeper tactics like, oh, okay, the Executioners will go in first. They're going to be just 5 wide to make sure I have Steadfast. First rank, I'm going to make sure I kill those characters. Then I'm going to come in with the Witch Elves. They're going to flank, and I'm just going to wipe out the rest of the unit. But because the way that was actually done, they were kind of separate, and they had to fight their own fights. And again, because of the way that the Executioners were deployed 7 wide or whatever they were, that meant that they didn't really have the ranks to stay steadfast, and they didn't have the horde formation to get all those attacks they needed to win. So again, just kind of like in that middle zone where you're not really getting the best of either worlds, and like we saw there, they weren't even enough to stay steadfast, so they just kind of lost and left. Now, I think at this point here we can talk about how he played the game, and I think going into this, you'd have to really settle on 1 or 2 strategies. Either one, the one area he's really talking about and saying, all right, this part of the board over here, I kind of tricked him into the corner, but everything that's spaced out over here, that's what I'm going to kill. The other way of really looking at it is saying, all right, I'm going to try and take out his shooting and then fall away. And in that part there, you're saying, okay, I really want to take out his organ guns, and I want to take out his gyrocopter, because everything else doesn't really matter. I mean, quarrelers are a danger. They have a far range, but they can't move and shoot. So what you can always just keep on doing is just walking away from them or backing up while shooting something else, and they just can't really contribute to the battle. But like he said, he decided to dedicate to taking that one flank. Now, if that's the way you want to go, what he did there is he focused his shooting onto the Slayers. Now, that's not a bad thing, because Slayers you kind of want dead, because if you kill them in combat, they're going to get an extra attack back. The problem, it seemed like the shooting wasn't really focused. He had the Dark Shards over here, he had his Shades in the middle, and he had his Dark Riders on the other flank. Now, first of all, let's talk about the Dark Riders. He threw them in there as a ploy to say, hey, shoot us, and don't concentrate on the rest of the army. At its core, I really like that idea. However, they're just too fragile. Toughness 3, what do they have, like a 6+ armor or maybe a 5+? They're just going to die. I mean, that armor is going to be negated by the AP. I just really wouldn't put that there. If you really want to go with that strategy, I'd be going more with the Dark Shards, because the Dark Shards, they do their damage by magic. So whether there's 5 or there's 1, they can still cast that spell. Meanwhile, when you lose Dark Riders, they're trying to do their crossbow shots. There's not a lot of shots, but you feel that whenever you lose models. Plus, of course, on one side, you have a really crappy armor save. On the other side, you have a really decent ward save. So I would have done that instead. Now, when you're focusing on the one side, I did like how the Shades were there so they could charge in and get to those organ guns. It's definitely what you need to do. But remember, organ guns, they don't have a base. So when you charge them, you don't need to go straight in. You can go up in the very last second, wheel, so that you just clip them. You still fight with up to 6 models, and then when you beat it, you can overrun into the other organ gun. And that can be a very, very powerful way to dealing with them, especially when they're right there together. It's just hit one, kill, click, go over to the next one. Now we have to deal with the gyrocopter. Now, the gyrocopter is such a deadly thing, having to deal with the Dark Elves, because they come in and they do that spray template and guys just die like crazy. So if you're going to go with the game plan that I'm going to go in, I'm going to commit, and I'm going to try and kill these guys here, that really means you need that gyrocopter to die. It just cannot stay alive because things like your witch elves and your dark shards and executioners are just going to be destroyed by that thing. So really what you need to do is every single available shot going to that gyrocopter. It has to go down. As well, when it comes to magic, 6 dicing your magic missiles. That thing has to die. I might take a miscast and blow up and kill a few guys, but guess what? That's the equivalent of it flame templating once. And if I don't kill it, it can just go again and again and again. Now, with this too, it seemed that the gyrocopter was going more than 10 and shooting. Remember, the gyrocopter can only go its regular movement, 10, and do the teardrop, or if it wants to run, it has to do its kind of bombing run thing and do whatever, like the very few hits. But it seems here that it came over from the woods on the one turn to beside your dark shards on the next. And it looked to me like that was more than 10 inches. Maybe I'm wrong. But again, whenever you're playing against something that's so deadly, not only do you have to focus on it, but you got to make sure, I got my eyes on you. You better play that thing properly. So that's another small thing there too. Overall, for talking about the actual game strategy, I think instead of dedicating to the one side, it probably might have been safer just to say, okay, I got you spread out. I'm going to try and really take down the gyrocopters. I'm going to try and charge in, take out the ogre guns, the organ guns, and then if you want to come after me with your other stuff, go ahead. But as you're moving ahead, just your 6, now once those other targets are shot down and done, now I'm going to target those slayers. This is the time I'm going to take it down. Then when the old grumbling beards, the gray beards, the long beards come in, I'm going to make sure I'm going to receive the charge. I'm not going to charge them because I want to shoot during my turn. I'm going to receive the charge of my executioners, which are 5 wide, and then I'm going to go for characters on this turn. I'm going to be steadfast, and then my witches are going to be in a spot where they can flank next turn. Now, that's another part with the way that this was played, is that if I understand right, when those long beards came in, it sounded like he did a lot of attacks on characters because he was talking about how none of the killing blows worked. And really, when you're in that situation, you just have to go for the unit because you have to either try and kill enough that you're going to win, or you have to make sure that you kill enough of their guys that they're not going to be breaking your steadfast. So again, maybe I heard that wrong, but that seemed to be maybe another tactical error, just something to think about. Otherwise, very enjoyable battle reports. Really high quality battle report as well too, with all the different good pictures and all the overlays and the victory points on the bottom and all this stuff. Very, very good report. So I'm going to have a description down below showing the link to get to his channel. So please go down below, check out all the rest of his. If you like it, which you should, go and subscribe to him. And otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you later. Bye.